Good afternoon and welcome to Forward Team Daggett 2020. I am Antonio Tony Daggett, a retired United States Army Colonel Chaplain with 36 years of military service.
And I'm Vida Daggett, the wife of the Colonel for 37 years, and we are the natural parents of 10 children. We have 8 sons and 2 daughters.
Many of you are aware that I am a candidate and therefore running for the United States Congress House of Representatives seat here in District 1 of Indiana. Congressional District 1 of Indiana includes Lake, Porter, and portions of LaPorte County.
We're at the campaign headquarters of Forward Team Daggett 2020, and our purpose is to bring you information and give context to many of the things which are happening locally, nationally, and globally. So far, we've shared information with you such as voting by mail, providing PPE for hospitals, and the impact of state lockdowns on some of our military veterans. These can be viewed on our YouTube channel. Before we jump into our topic for today, let me remind you that the primary voting election date has changed to June 2nd. You can still vote on May 5th. That's going to be considered early voting, which is totally fine. But the primary date is June 2nd. If you want to take a visit to our webpage, you can do that by going to www.electdaggett.com. To find us on Facebook, just enter in Antonio Tony Daggett. If you want to follow us on Instagram, Antonio.Daggett. For those of you that like Twitter, Antonio Daggett. And you can find us on YouTube under Forward Team Daggett. And if you like podcasting, we are on Breaker, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. And just enter in Forward Team Daggett 2020.
Thank you, Vida. Our topic this afternoon is on the effects of the pandemic on our churches, our worship services and worship centers. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's been a lot of issues with this throughout our nation. And in fact, I think what has to happen as a leader in a community, we must be in a position to have a relationship with all our constituents, particularly for times like crisis like these. We saw here in Hammond a situation where a church was actually ticketed, that the pastors were ticketed because they chose to gather together and still meet. Vida, I think leadership is so important in this regard because relationships are important. I think it's important that we respect our households of faith. Yes. And the way we do that is establish relationships prior to crisis taking place, so then when crises do take place, we're in a position to make a difference.
Yes, and that's really important to have that relationship with the churches, because during a time like this, for some people it's very, very scary. Mm-hmm. And they're holding on to their faith.
Absolutely.
That's about all any of us have right now is our faith. And the first thing we want to do is we want to go to church.
Exactly.
We feel closer to the Lord when we go to church.
Well, in a relationship with the churches, one of the things as a leader that I would make sure that I do is sit down with the pastors and really speak to them, or through virtual, online, social media, speak to the pastors and explain to them that I, number one, respect and honor and worship their services. And I also make clear to them that I know that the church is not the building, but the church is the individuals. And so, similar to the way Moses and the children of Israel sequestered themselves prior to leaving Egypt, we would want that same understanding of the pestilence or the virus passing over church members, church believers, and so thereby allowing them to not get together at a building, but online. And some churches have the capabilities to do online services. Yes. And for those pastors that did not have that capability, I would make sure as a leader that we got them smartphones so that they would be in a position to have the kind of virtual program over the air. And I think that's important because we want to stop the spread of the virus, but we want to also respect the worship service. And I think that's what we need to do as leaders. We didn't see that here in Hammond particularly, but as a leader, we must be willing to make sure that that's available for all our constituents. Amen. Thank you so much for spending time with us here at Forward Team Daggett 2020.
Till next time.